All right, let's dive right into it. First of all, can you give us the quick intro of yourself? Like, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Tommy Christ. I have my own AI agency focused specifically on voice AI and custom solutions for small to medium-sized businesses. Adjacent to that, I also have my own YouTube channel by the same name, Tommy Christ, as well as a school community or an online community of AI entrepreneurs. I think we just hit 800 people in there, where for free, I just help people out with any questions they might have and trying to do what I'm doing now.
Awesome, awesome. And what kind of niche or industry do you focus on in your agency?
Yeah, so I have a general agency. I don't really have like a specific niche or anything. Some of the types of companies I have worked with in the past, though, are e-commerce companies, construction companies, and like commercial real estate as well.
That's great. And how big is your team?
It's just me. If I need extra help on a project, I'll usually outsource to people in my community and I'll pay whatever makes sense for that project. But in
Hmm.
terms of anybody full time or actually on payroll, it's just I'm a
Hmm.
solopreneur.
Awesome, awesome. And you usually find in your community, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
That's
it's really convenient there because both I can go back. Usually it's people I know. I host weekly Q&A calls, so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
people I'll see there, as well as I can go back through their posts and see like, hey, this
Mm,
person seems smart, seems like someone I'd want to work with, as well as
mm,
I have some authority to them where they actually want to work with me inherently.
yeah, that's great. I think that's like one of the biggest advantage of creating content and building an audience, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Because like
Yeah,
instead of like going into like Fiverr and Upwork to find like people work for you, I mean it's just so much better like in terms of like reliability, like quality of like workers as well. I think it's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing to note too is I was really surprised as I made the community. Not that I expected there to be like people that weren't super educated in there, but I have employees from Google
Mm,
in my community. I have
mm,
people that like are comp sci majors at major universities. People got 1500 plus on their SAT.
mm,
So a lot of times you go in these communities and you think who's actually like there. You think it's a bunch
mm,
of just like random teenagers, where when in
mm,
fact, like there's people with real skills at prestigious institutions are in these communities, which is really
yeah,
cool.
yeah. That's great. That's great. All right. And let's move on to the next question. I think you kind of answered this question. Like you already what services do you sell specifically?
Yeah. So usually if a client comes to me with a project, I try and be as open as possible, but I mainly focus on voice AI and any automations adjacent to that. So sort of breaking that down, that's stuff like AI receptionist, but within that, that can also be like booking in a calendar or something like that, or creating reports based on a phone call. But sort of
Mm,
central to it all is voice AI.
that makes sense. So basically, voice agents and their tools
Yeah,
using any automation tools. Okay, that makes sense. And what's your pricing model for your service?
yeah. So everything's custom, so it depends a lot, case by case. But generally, how I like to structure it is based on if it's something I've delivered, if I've delivered something similar to that before,
Hmm.
and I know generally how long it's going to take, I'll
Hmm.
charge usually a 50-50 fee. So like 50% upfront, 50% at the end of the project. And
Hmm.
that's usually around starting at like $1,000. And
Hmm.
then anything above that, because usually clients won't want just that. They'll then want to ask for additional features or can't do this, can't do that. I then
Hmm.
charge hourly after that for consulting slash development. And that's anywhere from 50 to $100 an hour, again,
Hmm.
depending on the client.
All right, all right. So you're basically charging your clients 50 upfront and 50 at the end of the project for the setup fee. So instead of like charging 100% of your setup fee upfront, you're charging, half and half.
Yeah.
And and like I was wondering if you charge based on usage of your agent afterwards, or like is it just like done after completing the project?
No, I don't charge any usage. It would be something I feel like I would do, except my case is a bit more unique for how I sort of pitch my agents because people come through my YouTube. So they see exactly how I build it. They know I use Retail. They know I use Make. They know I use things like Chat Dash. And so I'm never sort of pitching it as my own AI. It's people just looking for my expertise to build it. However, I think, and I say this to people in my community, it makes a lot more sense if you are able to pitch it like that. Like it's different because people see behind the scenes of my company. But if they don't, then usage makes a lot more sense.
It's just that you're not doing it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're already like it's their retail accounts, it's their Make.com account, so they're already paying usage to those companies. It would feel, in my opinion, to those business owners, it would feel like an
Mm,
extra tax on to charge them like
mm,
usage plus.
got it. So since you're not positioning your service as your own agency service, you're not basically charging your clients on usage base.
Yes.
Basically, like they are hiring you as an AI developer and consultant
Yeah.
in their, you
Yeah,
know,
rather than like me being like an
yeah,
AI company.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's great. All right. And what's your roughly monthly revenue range, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. So once again, since it's hourly and clients sort of like their needs come and go, it can vary a good amount. I'd say on average, if you take any 3 months out of the year, these past, I'd say like 6 to 9 months. If you take
Mm,
any random 3 months, it's roughly around $5,000. Some months are higher,
mm,
some months are lower.
mm.
But yeah, that's been keeping steady, pretty steady there.
Yeah, I think like 5 to 6K per month as a college student. You're a full-time student, right?
Yes, I'm a full-time student as
Yeah,
well as like looking for other internships and stuff like that. So, yeah.
yeah. So you're doing it you're doing this as a side hustle, and you're making on average like 5 to 6K every single
Yeah.
month. As
I make as much as my mom does at a
yeah,
full-time
that's
job.
great.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you will soon exist your mom's earning. So
Yeah.
right, you know what I mean? Well, that's cool. Yeah. And this one's pretty interesting question, I guess. I think it's kind of repetitive, my questions are. What's your best performing offer or sales strategy so far in your agency?
Yeah. So just because like everything's custom, I wouldn't say like I have a specific offer or like anything
Mm,
productized, but really how I pitch my services is that like I'm on a call with a business owner and they
mm,
want this thing. Usually they're very excited about AI. They're like, I just saw this demo, voice AI, yada yada. I watched your videos, you seemed smart or knowledgeable. And so really how I pitch it is like I'm putting an arm around their shoulder and saying, hey, like
mm,
as a fellow business owner, we're gonna go through this together. We don't know how long it's gonna take. That's why I'm charging you hourly, anyways. And we're just gonna figure this out together and build something really cool. And usually they'll usually come with an idea, and I've been around it enough where I can sort of break down that idea into like how it'll actually happen. But I also like to be open that like this project, like I like long relationships with my clients. Like this could
mm,
potentially be 9 months to a year that we're working on this, and then but if you have any other ideas of how it can help in your business, like I'm always happy to help and have this be more than just like a one-off relationship. And so that's sort of like indirectly answers your question, but that's really
mm,
how I approach my client relationships,
mm.
especially on an hourly sat like
Yeah, yeah.
hourly charging basis. That allows me to
Mm,
keep my client retention really high, and I have
mm.
really low churn. I actually have no churn.
Oh, that's great.
I just keep all my
Mm.
clients. Yeah.
So you're saying that hourly rate billing works really well for your agency?
Yeah.
Mm,
And part of that, and I talk about it a lot just because it won't make sense for every agency, but a lot of agencies don't do it. But it's really easy for a client to just pick you back up if you're on
yeah,
hourly. Like if you
yeah,
charge
yeah.
them for a large project, $3,000
Mm,
or something,
mm,
and then they have another idea, it's a lot more for them to sort of say, hey, like we won't work with him again. He was great, but we don't know if we have the money right now. Whereas it's like, hey, I could just pay him $80 and at least know if this is a viable idea and get
mm.
started working on it. But we can also cut ties if it doesn't make sense financially.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah. All right. And another question would be any game changing insights you've had in the last 6 to 12 months running this business?
Yeah, this is probably something, if you're in the space, you hear a lot. But as I see more and more in my community, a lot of people are sort of worried that they're late to the game. And I just want to say, like, we're still so early in everything. Like, really, still, most of my clients are from like the West Coast of the US, California, which is generally the most sort of
Mhm.
tech progressive part of the US. So that makes sense. But what that signals to me is that, like, there's still what, like 90% of businesses that aren't even thinking about adopting AI, as well as like one thing I've really learned because I made this mistake at the beginning of my journey, which is 18 months ago now, but you should really like sell your product before you even build it. Because realistically, the technology moves so fast, use cases move so fast.
Mhm.
Every week, especially every month, there's new technology that you're going to have to implement that makes no sense to build something unless you have a client already. And that's why it's really easy to start out with custom projects like I have, where you
Mhm.
you get a use case and then you build it, whereas instead of
Yeah.
like building something productized. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, those would be some of just like the little tidbits I've picked up.
Yeah. I think that's very relatable to me as well. Because like
Mhm.
especially for beginners, I think one of the biggest mistakes beginners make is basically like they're trying to make it like everything perfect before they launch their agency.
Mhm.
Like they're trying to like make it like, oh, what kind of dish should I go for? Like what kind of product? Like how can I like, productize the service? And they spend like 3 to 4 months just to figure that out.
Yeah,
And by the time they finalize their offer, like all the deliverables and all the use cases are not very compelling. You know what I
exactly.
mean? So like that's a great point. Like
Yeah.
I just like recommend like people like beginners just start it out and like just offer services for free
Mhm.
to like business owners just to get the experience. It's like
Yeah.
it's really different like from building like just following tutorials and building AI receptionist, very basic AI receptionist versus building something that actually delivers value to their clients. Like it's so different. So like I don't think it makes sense for beginners to spend too much time upfront before starting, actually, delivering services to clients. You know what I mean?
I
So I think
completely
it's
agree.
yeah, just start it out and
Yeah.
see what's worked and what's not worked. You know what I mean? I think that's great. That's great insight. All right. And also, what's slowing you down the most right now? What's your biggest bottleneck in your business?
Yeah. So this is funny mentioning what we just talked about, sort of doing custom projects. But as I move forward, I think something I'd like to do is get more into whether that means niching down or not, a more productized service. Because currently I'm very, there'd be two ways for me to scale right now because I'm sort of at my limits for like what I can do as to
Hmm.
like signing clients. So it's either I hire someone or I make the service a lot easier to deliver. Personally, I don't want to like really hire someone or have an employee because I still feel like I don't even know what I'm doing half the time. So I don't know how I expect to teach someone else what to do. So off of that, I could instead make more of a productized service where I find really what I'm going to do is look at the past projects I've done, see if any
Hmm.
of them I think have potential to scale across that
Hmm.
industry it was in and
Yeah.
potentially make a productized service and pitch specific
Hmm.
services there rather than doing all custom, I think would be the next steps. And I've been brainstorming on that for the past couple weeks as well.
Okay. Any kind of use case or deliverable you've been thinking about?
Yeah, there's two specific niches. So like one, e-commerce, I think has a lot of potential, and that's mostly for two reasons. One, it's an online business and they're going to be very open to AI. Two is that everything's built basically using the same platform, Shopify, like however many,
Mm,
so many. And
yeah.
so that makes the integrations super
Mm,
like productized because they all use the same
mm,
software. Where
oh,
and so I think there's a lot of opportunity there, as well as surprisingly, and I would have not guessed this until I started signing clients. Construction, there's a lot of opportunity, and that mostly comes from like the way they do their like admin tasks and like paperwork and all that stuff is just like AI could do like all of it, and that's what they spend most of their time on, and it's what they
Mm,
the most spending their time on. It's all really boring.
mm,
And
mm.
so there's just a huge pain point there, and it's really easy to automate.
Got it. So you're thinking about two niches, e-commerce and construction.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, what specifically, what kind of solution you're thinking about? You know what I mean? Because you
Yeah.
haven't, covered this.
Yeah. For e-commerce, and this is something, these are all based on things I've built for clients. In the past, I automated in e-commerce companies their entire like inbound customer support type thing. And so a lot of these companies
Mm,
don't even have like an inbound phone number. It's just like in for
mm,
complaints. And so through that, we were able to automate just like FAQs, obviously, but
mm,
also the sending and receiving of like return links based on sort of where they got their
mm,
product from, whether they bought it through Amazon or Shopify or whatever.
mm,
You can automate the return process as well as some people like to place, depends on the product, but bulk orders. And so like certain people would inquire about like bulk orders and I actually the like US Pentagon ordered through my AI one time for a bulk order, which was cool. It was not military. I didn't work with a
mm,
military company. It
mm,
was
mm,
just like office stuff.
mm,
But just mostly that inbound part. And then another cool thing you can do is if you're able to do the TCPA, like get authorization for outbound calls in your checkout, then you can actually call people who abandon their cart rather than just emailing them, which is like a cool use case.
that makes sense.
And
So
then
for,
for construction, there's sort of like I know a bit less about construction, so this won't be as specific, but from the people I've worked with, I know like they just get like a bunch of plans, whether it's like architect plans or like shipment dates, all that. They just like have so much info that they have to consume where like if you were able to just run all those PDFs and docs through like an AI and have it put out like here are the key points you just need to know, as well as something cool I just built for a client was he has a construction company and basically if you have a construction site, then you have 10, 15 workers for the day. And at the end of each day, the sort of general contractor or whoever's managing the site has to call each person individually,
mm,
write
mm,
down like how long they worked, what they did, if they bought anything
oh,
and so I
mm,
was able to automate that all with voice AI, which
mm,
saves hours every day. I mean, it's unbelievable that that's how they did it, but it's how
oh,
most
yeah,
construction companies do it.
all right.
So those are just a couple of like specific use cases I've found.
That's really cool. So for e-commerce, there are two main solutions you found useful. First, inbound receptionist, I'll say. I don't know,
Yeah,
inbound, yeah, intaker, basically. So that solves like every basic, customer queries, and
mhm.
maybe do some return or refunds, right?
Yeah,
And another one's gonna be basically like outbound calling after seeing like abandoned cart from the user. And for construction company, I see like construction companies are like really like they're not adopting tech,
mm,
right? They're like
yeah,
really slow and like they're like very conservative in terms of implementing.
exactly.
And that's why they're calling 15 people
Yeah,
every single day, just to
yeah,
get the working hours from workers, right?
exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like where
that's
they work.
insane. That's insane. Right. That's cool. That's really cool. Because like I
Yeah,
haven't worked with any commerce and construction company before, so I think it's really fresh information for me. Good to know.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So my next question would be, especially for like beginners, what's something you wish you had figured out sooner?
Yeah, I'm probably going to touch on something we already talked about just because I think it's so
Mm,
important. But
mm,
like, to start talking to business owners and selling your product before like trying to build it. And especially
mm,
like, I started out trying to build like a productized chatbot. And realistically, you shouldn't have a productized anything until you're like 3 to 6 months into having clients. You just don't know enough. And about use cases or how to service clients or client management, like, it's just unrealistic to do it
mm,
until then. And
mm.
one thing I wish I figured out sooner was just to start with custom solutions because you get paid more per client. And so, like, you get money in your pocket, and it's a lot easier to just start.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think it's kind of like a recurring theme in this like
Mm.
space. just start and
Yeah,
basically like getting paid to learn. You know what I mean?
exactly.
And see what's worked. And maybe and potentially you can productize the service. That's really great. And moving on to the next question. Now let's talk about Chatdash.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. What problem were you trying to solve when you found Chatdash initially?
Yeah. So there are a couple. One person, like I mentioned, I don't have a need to like white label in my own agency, but since I have clients and I make videos about it, I do need to have be an advocate for some sort of platform that does that because I know how valuable it is for other people. So that was one, having something to show to my community to show that's possible, how to do it, stuff like that. The other are like there's specific features within ChatDash that just my experience is going to be specific to voice AI and retail, but there's things you can do in there that retail AI just doesn't have the capability to do.
Mm,
So, for example, like the outbound calling campaigns, the control you have within there to redial callers and stuff like that is something that you can't do within retail. You'd have to manually like see who responded to each call, stuff like that, and then redial them, everything. And so that's something that's now an extra service I'm able to offer to my
mm-hmm,
clients because
mm-hmm,
of Chatdash. And obviously the reporting is way more consumable for my
mm-hmm,
clients because like on retail or with my clients, it's the business owner I work with generally is pretty keyed in and smart and knows how everything works. However, they have employees that I also work with,
mm-hmm,
people that aren't as technical or don't understand the full scope of the
mm-hmm,
business. So to be able to have a simplified dashboard that I
mm-hmm,
can control, they can control is really important to me.
mm-hmm,
And also to be candid, there's a lot more features that I'm excited to use going forward with clients that I
mm-hmm,
haven't had the opportunity to use as well.
mm-hmm.
Specifically the I forget what it's called, like being able to tag conversations and sort them and stuff.
Yeah, topic tagging system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, where we automatically segment conversations
Yeah,
based on topics you set for the project. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the features like people really appreciate, especially when you have a lot of conversations. Because like
Hmm.
you don't want to dig into every single conversation. So that's people really like. And I'm also like glad that you mentioned that you really like the like simplified dashboard of Chatdash.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because like we're trying to build a dashboard that even non-technical people can fully comprehend. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because like most voice agent like builders are built for developers at least for like a little bit tech savvy person. You know what I mean? Because like the platform where developers build agents, so there's a little assumption there where people actually like the users of this product will be at least knowledgeable
Hmm.
of some sort of AI agents. But most of the time, when you're trying to deliver AI agents to clients, there's some cases where people don't even understand like what AI agents are. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm trying to build dashboard that are customer facing and customer friendly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, it's especially in the AI space because everything's so new and very technical. It's impossible to sell something that someone doesn't understand. Like there could be infinite value. You could be handing them money, but it doesn't matter if they don't understand it. And so being able to break that barrier
Hmm.
is really important in having an AI agency or any company really.
Yeah, yeah. True that. And also my next question would be, why did you decide to use ChatDash over other solutions out there in the market?
Yeah, I think it's just, I'd say two reasons. One, it's integrates really well and it has some really unique features. Some of which I mentioned. One I didn't mention was the Stripe billing is like huge. Other one is you guys move super fast. So even if
Mm,
you don't have a feature, I know whether I bring it up or someone in the community that within a couple weeks to a month, like it will be a feature. And
mm,
so there's sort of solace in knowing like it's almost an investment in learning the technology, something like ChatDash, that even if the feature is not there now, you'll know how to use the platform. And when the feature does come, it's really
mm,
easy to instead of waiting to use ChatDash until that feature is there. So that's one thing. Maybe I have a different perspective on software because I use it so much, but I think it's really important not to think about just what capabilities a software has now, but also how fast the team's able to move and
Mhm.
what they're planning on having in the future.
Yeah, I think like that's really important point. Like the second point you made
Mhm.
there, like to being able to like shift faster, especially
Mhm.
in this like fast moving industry,
Yeah.
is a core value. And we're trying to keep that value like just by showing that we're moving fast, just by
Mhm.
shipping new feature in like 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that you mentioned that. All right. And like I was wondering, like you're not using it for white label like features specifically. Like of course you have added like customer vein and stuff, but like
Mhm.
you won't need like a white label. You know what I mean? But like how do you use it in your business?
Yeah.
Just for like
So,
dashboard?
yeah. So I'll use it for the dashboard. I'll use it, for example, like the outbound campaigns, or if there's any functionality not in retail that I want that functionality, then I'll use Chat
Mm,
Dash. And as part of that, I'm able to also bill my clients on top of that. So
mm,
I'll be like, hey, like we're gonna use this platform, Chat Dash, and it's $100 a month. And so I'm able to then get extra revenue for the extra functionality. And it also just is able to centralize things and eliminate any extra like make.com functions I'd have to
mm,
have.
yeah.
Um, so like for example, like all my companies, I'll still have like a make.com end of call thing to like update a Google Sheet on every conversation. But like the company still goes in Chat Dash to look at the conversations. Like they don't
Mm,
look at the Google Sheet because the Google Sheet's ugly
yeah.
and it doesn't have everything. Like you can't automatically play the audio. And so
Mm.
for sure, like end of call stuff, I use it as well as analytics for almost every client, and then on a case by case basis for extra features as well.
And what kind of extra features you see very useful in Chatdash?
Yeah. So the outbound campaign, sorry, I'm gonna go into my client dashboard and
Yeah.
on Chat Dash and actually look.
Yeah, yeah. You can you feel free to share
For
your screen.
sure, the conversations tab and sort of all the related features like the tagging, the sorting, the search bar
Mm.
is way easier to use in retail and definitely than the Google Sheet we upload to it. And then as well as like
I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, can you actually share your screen and
yeah,
see
yeah.
how your dashboard looks like? Yeah,
I'll go on to like my demo.
yeah, yeah.
How do I share my screen on here? Oh, share. The big share button, obviously.
Yeah, there's a share button. Yeah, no bottom. All right,
All right. Are you able to see my screen? Okay. So this is just like my demo account.
got it.
Generally, I'll for sure this analytics page, this is the hub for all my clients really, where they sort of get updates on how everything's going and are able to consume the information. And again, for an actual client, this would all be populated with their real information. And something useful about ChatDash as well, you aren't able to see it here because I just have one agent, but a lot of my users or my clients have multiple agents that I've built for them. And so they're actually just able to sort the analytics based on the agent, whereas in retail, you can't do that. And so they're able to compare performance across whether they have different companies. I have some clients that have multiple companies. They're able to compare performance across those as well as any other reason they need to do that. The
Mm-hmm.
conversations tab, I mean, it's just there's so much more like it's way easier to filter, and especially
Mm-hmm.
like I mentioned for people that aren't as tech savvy, like retails can be a bit clunky and it has a lot more technical terms. This note function is helpful because I have a lot of clients. It's like they'll notice something in the call, it'll be like, hey, like the AI said this, I don't want it to say this.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to reach out back out to me to make that change in the prompt or whether it's something with the API. And
Mm-hmm.
so when they're able to leave a note, that's easier than them having to like download the recording and share it with me and like do a bullet
Mm-hmm.
point. They can just leave a note here and tell me to look at it.
Yeah.
And then for sure, topics, like I mentioned, is something I want to use a lot more. That's something I want
Mm-hmm.
to dive into. And then
Mm-hmm.
campaigns, just for anything outbound. For example, going through here, retail does not let you select calling days. Like if you're doing a batch call, like you just do a batch call and it just calls
Mm-hmm.
everyone. And specifically the retry attempts and retry interval is something that is really important that retail doesn't have. And so that's sort of my 2 cents on at least the voice side, because I know there's a lot more functionality related to chatbots and like actually designing them and everything like that.
Mhm.
But that's just
Mhm.
not the space I'm
Yeah,
in. So I don't specifically use
yeah.
it.
All right, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing your dashboard.
Of
That was
course, yeah.
actually really helpful. Yeah, for viewers. And so moving forward, how has ChatDash affected your revenue, efficiency, or client experience so far?
Yeah, I'd say I definitely make more money with it because I'm able to like bill a bit extra. I think it's more impactful for people that sell it as their own technology. And so I'd say I don't use it to its full sort of potential in terms of generating revenue.
Mm,
But in terms of like efficiency, it allows me to centralize a lot of information that
mm,
otherwise would require clients to go to different softwares or platforms or websites to view, able to sort of centralize that all and make it really easy to present to a client exactly
mm.
what work I'm doing and the results it's producing.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, like instead of populating new make.com scenarios, Google Sheets for every single client, it might take like a couple hours to build it fully out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You can just like plug and play your agent, and you can
yeah,
get your fully customized dashboard out of the box, right?
exactly.
Yeah. And so you say like what's the biggest ROI you've seen from using it just for
Yeah,
like time saving stuff?
yeah, just time, like so much
Mm,
time. And
mm,
specifically because I bill hourly, my time is literally money.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it just saves so much time and headache in
Mm,
doing extra stuff for every single client.
yeah,
Whereas for this, I plug in like an API key and then everything's good.
yeah. So you're rather like focusing on your main thing, which is building AI agents for businesses, right?
Yeah,
Instead of like dealing with like those like clunky dashboard and connecting like this thing to this, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah,
All that stuff's super boring.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So if someone took Chatdash away from you today, what would break in your business?
Would be like certain features I'm able to deliver to my clients, which we went over a lot of them just now, as well as I just have to set up some sort of other way of reporting and communicating
Hmm.
with clients
Hmm.
what's actually going on with the
Hmm.
technology I've built. And a really underrated part of running an agency is client communication. And it's
Yeah.
underrated not because people don't recognize it, but I think people just don't recognize it enough. I think like maybe 75% of any relationship you have with a client is how you
Hmm.
communicate to them. And like 25% is actually the work you do.
Yeah.
And so just being able to clearly be able to showcase what the agent's doing, whether that's just minutes, how much it's costing, as well as the conversations it's having, is essential.
Yeah. That makes sense. So would you say that like being able to present this kind of Chatdash dashboard and everything in one place reduces churn for your clients because you're keeping like all your clients right now.
Yeah, for sure. And it makes you
Mm,
look so much more professional as well.
that makes sense. It's like it's all under your branding at the end of the day. Like, yeah, from the dashboard, like they can see the agency logo and the even custom domain, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we're almost there, almost there. This is for your like personal experience. What's one mistake that cost you time or money by doing this journey?
Sorry, I'm just plugging in my computer. Yeah. One, I would say I feel like I keep coming back to it, but definitely just like trying to build before selling at the beginning cost me like
Mm,
a lot of time. It cost me some money, but mostly time.
uh,
And then another thing that I won't get into like specifics about it, but don't be afraid with clients to like set boundaries on stuff you're willing to do and not do. Because especially when you're starting out and you just want some money, you just want that
mm,
client, it can cause you to sort of just say yes to everything. And in reality, even if you're making like an extra buck here and there, if you're not doing sort of the work that's core to your business and the work that you want to do, it ends up hurting you more in the long run.
I think that's a good one too. All right. And what's something every AI agency should be doing right now, if there's one?
Content, and that doesn't have to be
Um,
doesn't have to be YouTube. YouTube's probably like the most difficult one, if I'm being honest.
Mm,
especially if you have like other stuff going on. But that can be LinkedIn, and like people think content and they think they have to have like a Mr. Beast type idea and thumbnail. Like just like explain what you're doing and just show people what you're doing. And then you can make content from that. And
mm,
so whether that's LinkedIn, whether that's X is one that's like, or Twitter, like are underutilizing. There's huge software communities on Twitter. And then YouTube is obviously a really good one. Probably
mm,
the best if you get it right, but takes the most effort. LinkedIn, I think,
yeah,
is the easiest.
makes sense. And you're so like you're running a YouTube channel right now, and that's your main like content stream, right?
Yeah, I have every
Yeah.
client I get is through YouTube or adjacent
Uh,
to that. So like for example, like Retail AI has like I'm sponsored by Retail. Like they'll sponsor some of my videos and pay me for it. And
mm,
so as part of that, I'm part of like their expert directory, which is like if you go on their website and they're like hire a community
mm,
partner, like I'm under there. And so every
yeah.
day Retail sends me leads that come into them that want to hire a specific partner. So I have more
Mm-hmm.
leads from that. I have people booking calls from my YouTube.
Mm,
I have people that just go on their page and book a call with me and say, "Hey, like I saw
mm,
you're a retail expert. Like I want to work with you."
mm,
And so, yeah, I don't do any cold outreach, which is the only way I'm able to do it while still in college because it just
yeah,
takes a lot of time to do cold outreach.
yeah. And also like on top of that, like if you're running a cold outreach campaign, if you don't have any experience before, your
Hmm.
open rates and response rate will be like so bad. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because like who cares?
yeah,
Who are you basically? So
yeah.
I think that's a great strategy as a college student. I mean, YouTube is probably the most challenging channel that you want to go in, but
Hmm.
like at the same time, for the same reason, you know what I mean? For the same reason, you probably want to do YouTube.
Exactly. Yeah, if you have the time to do it, YouTube's 100%. Like if you get YouTube right, like you'll
Yeah,
never go broke.
yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah.
Yeah, and you're so like you're making content on YouTube, and you're
Mhm.
getting paid for making retail AI videos
Yeah.
from retail.
Mhm.
And from that YouTube video, you're getting leads.
Yes.
And you're
Yeah.
featured on Retail AI's homepage, which probably have a lot of traffic there
Yeah.
with like very high intent leads. And
Mhm.
you're getting all these leads from Retail AI.
Yeah, for free. Yeah.
That's
Actually,
insane.
I'm getting paid to do it. Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah. That's a great virtuous cycle there. You know what I mean? You make
Oh,
content,
yeah.
like from there, like you're getting like everything in your favor.
I think my headphones are dead. That's awesome. If you don't mind me asking, like, how much do you get paid for each video from retail?
Yeah, it's 250 to 500. I also signed that deal when I only had 400 subscribers, which is kind of crazy.
Because like
So
they're
like,
yeah, they're a VC-backed company, so they have money.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome. And I was just wondering, like just top of my head,
Yeah.
how many hours you put in each video on average?
Yeah. I recently tried to like do a more authentic approach and it got like no views recently. So those took like an hour and a half, 2 hours. But like for my videos that actually did well, I'd say like 5 to like 7 hours. And
Hmm.
that includes at least an hour on the thumbnail. I focus a lot on that. And then building out the video idea is another like hour or 2 hours. And then recording it's anywhere from like a half hour to an hour. And then
Hmm.
editing is like usually like 50% longer than recording. So
Hmm.
that's usually like an hour, hour and a half. And then, but like for sure, I spend the most time planning and creating the thumbnail
Yeah.
because without that, I've recorded like so many videos that like halfway through, I'm like, I don't even like this video. So how am I gonna expect other people to watch it? Or like
Hmm.
I had an idea, I did everything, and then I just didn't like it. So yeah.
And you're doing it all yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I build everything myself.
That's awesome. And then, and it's pretty like cool that you're spending like 5 to 7 hours to build a sponsor video, like a
Mhm.
quality video, and you're getting paid 20 to 50 from 250 to $500 per video.
Yeah,
That already pays you, like,
yeah,
in some sense.
yeah. No, it's
That's why
very
you're getting like $300 per video, And if you break it down, like if you spend like 5 hours, you're getting, $60 per hour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's great.
That's great. Yeah. So like every AI agency owner just create content on YouTube.
Yes, yeah, please.
That's the conclusion, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's hard, but it's worth doing it. You know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah, if you do it right.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Thanks for sharing. And as you probably noticed, I'm also on my YouTube channel recently,
Of
and I
course,
have
yeah.
some contents, and yeah, I'm getting a lot of leads from YouTube as well for myself.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think,
YouTube's super legit. YouTube's the best.
yeah, YouTube is the best because like I think the main reason is because like the traffic coming from YouTube like it's mostly the best quality leads, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because like they're like very high intent. Like, they're
Yeah,
searching it up and they're actually doing some research to take things up. So
yeah.
yeah, so I think that's YouTube is the best way to get qualified leads.
And you can show your personality, and it's like the ultimate demo. They see how you talk,
Yeah,
they can see if they like you or not, and
yeah,
you can show them exactly how the product works and what you build and how it works. And so it's very engaging, more so than just like a
yeah,
post or LinkedIn or something like that.
yeah. Makes sense too. And over time, you're gonna get, more and more views and more audience.
Mhm.
And it's a great way to build authority in any kind of space. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just by, putting out content consistently. Because like I think the hardest thing about like anything is just being consistent.
oh, for sure. I still struggle with that.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing. But,
Yeah.
like, I mean, like in terms of like quality, like the quality of videos might not as good as other people in the market when
Mhm.
you're first putting a vi YouTube video, and that makes sense, right? But like the only thing that really matters is just like how much you do. You know what I mean? How much
For
repetition
sure.
over time, and over time, like if you get it right, if you just be like consistent, you're gonna get better. It's unreasonable to
Yeah,
be better, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
so
exactly.
I think just being consistent on just anything, you know what I mean, I think is the best strategy to be at least like 10% in any space, you know what I mean? So that's great. Then and my next question would be I'm testing your sales skills.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
If you had 30 seconds to convince the skeptical business owners to use AI agents, what would you say?
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
would say, obviously, it would depend why they're skeptical, but I would say, hey, you're already paying an employee $60,000 a year,
Mm.
plus benefits, plus this or that. And what I can do is I can come in, I can solve that exact same problem, the exact same way they're solving it every time. Whereas if they have a bad day, it might not work. I
Mm.
can solve it the exact same way every single day for like 10% of the cost. And now, if you hate that person, you can go and fire them. If you don't hate that person, you can then put them on a job that's actually useful and not automated by because that's exactly what your competitors are doing down the street.
Mm.
Is they just got an AI to do that, and that receptionist is now doing something more important that's making them more money, whereas you're sitting here spending 90% more money for
Mm.
someone to do the same thing that a computer could do.
Wow. That was great.
Yeah,
That was
thank
great.
you.
That was very persuasive. Yeah. All right. And also, like, this is probably the question. Where do you see AI automation agency in 3 years?
Yeah. So what I would say, and this is heavily influenced by sort of, I mean, I'm sure you're making software like the vibe coding thing
Yeah.
going on right now, where instead of like right now, what we're doing is we're making just like very specific solutions to companies. And whether it's productized or not, it's all pretty custom. You have to connect it and it like has to work perfectly with like all the software they use and it's built using make.com or something like that. Where I see this going is instead of like a really good example of this is like Slack. But instead of us just making AI automation, we're gonna build a company like an entire software. So like if a company is like, oh, I want an internal messaging system, instead of them going to Slack, they'd instead hire an AI automation agency and they'd build them with AI, with whatever, a fully custom internal messaging system, just
Mhm.
because AI had gotten to a point
Mhm.
where it can code well enough to build something like that. And
Mhm.
so, this company spending $1,000 a month on Slack, and could be any use case. I'm just using internal messaging because people are really familiar with it. So instead of a company paying $1,000 a month for Slack, they can pay you $4,000 and you build them an internal Slack and then they just self-host it and like they don't have any monthly costs. And so after 4 months, they
Mhm.
already make their money back.
Mhm.
Where instead of us just making like an AI automation that just sort of you plug into their business, we're going to be making entire softwares that this company uses.
Mhm.
And a lot of companies will have their own custom software stacks
Yeah.
that they use instead of these big, huge companies with regulations and potential data leaks.
Mhm.
And so that's where I see it, where these solutions just get more and more custom and refined.
Yeah. That really makes sense. And I see like even like myself when I'm building a chat dash, I use AI a lot. Like to be honest with you, like when I'm building chat dash, I barely like write code. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I use prompt to like generate code and review this code. Of course, I need to understand like how things work.
yeah,
But for the sake of like coding, like I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? Because like
yeah. You're not in there
yeah,
typing it away.
yeah. So like yeah, I see like these AI models are getting like crazier and crazier and getting smarter and smarter. And maybe like within like 3 years, probably a lot of AI agency owners are basically a software development company,
Exactly.
what I mean,
Yeah,
who are using like AI really well to build custom solution for their clients really quickly. So instead of like spending like year of building product, like they could cut that down to like 2 to 3 months of development with
exactly.
1/10 of the cost right now. So yeah, I think that's where market is heading right now too. Like I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, my last question would be, would you recommend Chatdash to other agency owner? Why or why not? Be brutally honest.
Yeah. No, I definitely would. I do in my community, and it's a testament to how good the product is. I'm on this call now, but I would recommend it. I mean, I've gone over all the pros. Again, I think the biggest thing is just ChatDash has a great founder and a team that moves really fast, which is when you choose a software, especially one for your business where it's going to be a main part of what you deliver to your clients. It's truly an investment. It's like if you were to buy, if you were to start renting Airbnbs, like the home you buy is the product you deliver. And so the software you choose to use is the product you deliver. And so it's really important not to think about just the features it has now, which I think are still ahead of the competition with it, but as well as the people running it and the features it will have in the future is to me the biggest variable and something ChatDash definitely has.
That's good. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Yeah, I think that's all I got for this meeting.